Bar Lassiter was a young guy who lived with his parents and older sister near a small town called Carthage in Tennessee. The Lassiters were simple farmers. Their farm wasn't big, and they didn't have much money. They couldn't afford to have slaves. But even though they were poor, they always had enough food to eat because they grew what they needed. When the Civil War started, Barr was 22 years old. The war caused a lot of arguments and tension in families. Kids disagreed with their parents and grandparents, and even cousins, brothers and sisters argued with each other. People in the North thought owning slaves was wrong, but many in the South had been doing it for years and didn't want the Northern government telling them to stop. Barr supported the Union, which was against slavery, but his family sided with the Confederates, who wanted to keep slavery. This caused a huge rift. Barr didn't feel like he could stay at home anymore, and he definitely didn't want to fight for the Confederate Army. He decided to join the Union Army instead. When he left the farm, his family didn't try to stop him, and they didn't even say goodbye. Barr joined the Union Army as a cavalry soldier. The war was brutal, with battles happening in the North and the South. For 2 years, Barr didn't go back to Carthage. During that time, the area around his home kept switching between being controlled by the Union Army and the Confederate Army. Eventually, the Union Army took control again, but the war had left a lot of destruction. Farms and plantations were ruined, and a big battle near Carthage had killed many soldiers on both sides. One day, Barr asked his commanding officer for permission to visit his family. "Sir, my home is nearby," he said. "Can I go see my family?" "You can have 2 days off," the officer replied. Barr headed back to his family's farm, walking through the fields near Carthage. It was late in the afternoon when he finally got close to the house. The sun was setting, and shadows were stretching across the land. As he got closer, night fell, and the moon lit up the sky. Barr felt nervous. "Will they even want to see me?" he wondered. "It's been 2 years. Maybe they've changed their minds about the war. I've seen and done things I can't forget. I'm only 24, but I feel like an old man." When Barr reached the farmhouse, he noticed something strange. There were no lights on in the windows, and the front door was wide open. Suddenly, a man came out of the house. "Father," Barr called out. "Father." The man looked at Barr but didn't say a word. Instead, he turned around and walked back inside. Barr felt crushed. He realized he wasn't welcome in his own home. But even so, he stepped inside and walked into the kitchen. Barr's mom was sitting by the fireplace, but it was cold and empty, filled with black ash. There was no fire and no food cooking. "Mom," Barr called out, his voice full of emotion. "Mom!" She turned her head to look at him, but didn't say a word. Barr walked closer, wanting to put his hand on her shoulder, hoping for some kind of connection. Before he could, his sister walked into the room. She glanced at him, but didn't speak either. Without a word, She turned and left. Bar looked back at his mom, but she had also left the room. It was clear they didn't want him there. Feeling heartbroken, Bar went to the front door and stepped outside. The moon lit up the garden, and the long grass swayed gently, almost like it was moving underwater. The wind rustled the trees, casting their shadows across the yard. The whole scene felt eerie and sad. Tears rolled down Bar's face as he turned around and walked back to the army camp. The next morning, Bar woke up feeling exhausted. He hadn't slept well. His dreams were strange and unsettling. Did I really go home last night? He wondered. Or was it just a dream? Did my family really turn their backs on me? I can't tell. I need to go back and see for sure. Determined, Bar set off toward the farm again. On the way, he ran into his old friend, Bushrod Albro. The two had been friends for years and had gone to school together. "I'm heading home," Bar said. "I want to see my family." Bushrod gave him a quick, strange look, but didn't say anything. Bar didn't notice and kept talking. "I know my family probably still disagrees with me about the war," he said. "But," Bushrod cut him off, "there have been changes," he said quietly. "I'll come with you. We can talk on the way." But Bushrod stayed silent as they walked. He didn't say another word until they reached the farm. When they got there, Bar froze. His family's house was gone. All that was left were crumbled, burned walls. The doors, windows, and furniture had all been destroyed, turned to black ash. Bar stared at the ruins, completely shocked. "I didn't know how to tell you," Bushrod said softly. "A year ago, there was a battle here. Yankee shells hit your house, and it caught fire." Bar's voice shook. "And my family, where are they?" Bushrod looked down, his voice heavy with sorrow. "They were all killed when the house burned.